Nightmare in the mirror. I never believed in haunted objects. Not really. Old mirrors, creepy dolls. Those were just tricks of the imagination. That was until the mirror came into our lives. My wife, Clara, had always had a taste for antique shops. Those dusty little places full of forgotten trinkets from people long gone. She'd come home one Saturday with a wide grin, clutching an ornate oval mirror in her hands. The frame was black wood, intricately carved with swirling patterns that looked almost like faces if you stared long enough. "Isn't it beautiful?" Clara had said, holding it up to the light. "It's perfect for the hallway." I didn't argue. It was her hobby, and I didn't want to spoil her excitement. So we hung the mirror in the hallway, just outside our bedroom. It looked fine, I guess, though there was something about it that bothered me right from the start. It seemed out of place, like it didn't belong in the house. That night, I had the first nightmare. In the dream, I was standing in the hallway, staring at the mirror. My reflection was there, but it was wrong, twisted. The face in the glass wasn't mine, not exactly. The eyes were sunken, dark, with a hunger that sent chills down my spine. My skin looked stretched, tight, as if my reflection was trying to crawl out of the glass. And then it smiled. Not a human smile. It was too wide, too full of teeth. My reflection's hands reached up and pressed against the inside of the glass, its fingers long and thin, tapping against the surface, as if testing the barrier. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe, as I watched my own face leer back at me with that twisted grin. The glass started to crack, spiderwebbing out from where my reflection's fingers touched. And then, just as the glass shattered, I woke up. I sat up in bed, drenched in sweat, my heart pounding. I looked over at Clara, but she was fast asleep, her breathing steady. I took a deep breath, trying to shake off the lingering terror of the dream. It was just a nightmare, I told myself. Just a bad dream. But the next night it happened again. This time the dream was even worse. I was in the hallway again, but I wasn't alone. My reflection was waiting for me, standing there as if it had been expecting me. It didn't smile this time. It just stared, its dark eyes boring into mine, as if it was studying me. Then it moved. It stepped out of the mirror. My body wouldn't respond. I was frozen in place, watching as this twisted version of myself stepped closer, its movements slow and deliberate. The closer it got, the more I could see the details. The hollowed cheeks, the pale, almost translucent skin, the veins pulsing just beneath the surface. It looked like me, but it wasn't. It was something else, something pretending to be me. It reached out, its fingers brushing against my arm, and I jolted awake, gasping for breath. This time when I woke up, Clara wasn't in bed. The sheets beside me were cold, as if she had been gone for a while. My heart raced as I got up, glancing at the clock. 3:33 a.m. I called out her name, but there was no response. I walked out into the hallway, the cold floor sending a shiver up my spine. And there, standing in front of the mirror, was Clara. Her back was to me, her body rigid and still. At first, I thought she was just sleepwalking, but then I saw her face in the reflection. Her eyes were wide, too wide, staring directly at me through the mirror. Her mouth was slightly open, but she wasn't moving, wasn't breathing. She looked like a doll, frozen, lifeless, but her reflection was staring at me, not at her. I felt the air grow heavy around me, like the atmosphere itself was pressing down on my chest, making it hard to breathe. I called her name again, louder this time, but she didn't respond. She just stood there, her body facing away from me, her reflection locked in that unsettling stare. My legs felt weak, but I forced myself to step closer, to reach out and grab her arm. "Clara," I whispered, my voice shaky. I tugged her gently, but as soon as I touched her, she snapped out of it, gasping and turning toward me. What happened?" she asked, her voice trembling, her eyes wide with confusion. I didn't have an answer. I just pulled her back to bed, trying to ignore the feeling that something had followed us back into the room. The nightmares didn't stop after that. Every night, I dreamed of the mirror, of my reflection slowly crawling out of it, getting closer each time. And every night, I would wake up at 3:33 a.m., always to find Clara standing in front of the mirror, staring at her own twisted reflection. I tried to move the mirror, to take it down and throw it out, but every time I touched it, a cold, burning pain shot up my arms, as if the mirror was alive, refusing to let go. Then one night, I woke up and Clara wasn't in the hallway. She wasn't anywhere in the house. I ran to the mirror, but there was no reflection, just darkness. That's when I saw her, inside the mirror. Standing behind the glass, her face twisted, just like mine had been in the dreams. Her lips curled into that same horrifying smile. She reached out, pressing her hands against the glass, and I realized with a cold, sinking horror that I couldn't move. Now every time I look in the mirror, I see her, and I know she's waiting for me to join her.